I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Can everyone hear me okay? Hi, Ryan. Your hair's so long.
It's COVID times. I thought I'd let it go out, you know.
Totally.
It's this curly, it's a new thing to me.
It looks good.
Thanks.
All right. So I know people are just finishing class up at 12, so I feel like we might get some people joining in later, but we'll go ahead and get started. So Ryan, if you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, the floor is mine. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my living room. I do telehealth visits during the week, Tuesdays and Fridays. The rest of the time I'm at the VA hospital, but we'll jump into that here shortly. So I'll just tell my story. I was saddened to hear that Joni fell ill because she's from my PCOM family. We graduated together, and I was looking forward to hearing from her and seeing her face again. You know, it's so hard during COVID times with all this technology interface, but it does keep us connected, right? So I went to PCOM. Sorry, I haven't gotten used to the name switch either. Like I'm gonna keep calling it PCOM, but everyone knows it's like psh now. Is that how you pronounce it? I think it's a good move, but in my heart, it's still PCOM. So if we go back to the beginning, I always loved anatomy, physiology. I thought I was going to be a medical doctor one day. So I started off my school career studying biology. So I have a degree in biology, thinking I'd go pre-med. And I had other thoughts when I saw my grandmother go through the hospital system, and she passed away in the hospital, unfortunately. But that really steered me away from pharmaceutical-driven medicine. So I had a bit of an identity crisis at that time. Like, what am I going to do with myself? That's all I ever dreamed of doing, was being in medicine. And all of a sudden, I realized that's not what I wanted to contribute to, right? So I pursued a different path as a photojournalist. I used to do all the photography for PCOM while I was there, freelance stuff. And I still do that on the side for extra cash, but it was another passion of mine. I found out early on that I'm not so concerned about making money, although that is important, and we need to change our minds about that because you can make a lot of money as an acupuncturist. So I was following my passions, did that for a while, and then the economy changed, and that was the kick in the pants. I needed to go back to school. In my early 20s, I'm 42 now, I got into martial arts, and that steered me into the Asian realm, right? Of how I was just so impressed with how do you make a martial arts system? You have to know about the body and how it functions and its weaknesses and how to exploit those to make a fighting system. But they also had a medical system that we now know as TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and it was way above my head. It was way over my head. So I started picking up books on that and trying to figure out what it all meant. So I found a book on acupressure, started playing with that, seeing like, well, this stuff actually works. I don't understand it at all. I was never told in our Western culture that this had any merit, but obviously I was seeing it working on myself. So for everything I heard and research was that acupuncture was just more potent. So I knew that was the next step. So I got laid off my job as a photojournalist back in 2008 is when I got hired there. And that's when the economic downturn happened. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that. Okay, well, I got laid off at that time and could not find full-time work as a photographer anywhere. And that's when I had to really prioritize my life. I knew I wanted to be an acupuncturist, but damn it, I didn't want to go back to school for that long, for that strenuous of a course, but I knew that's what I want to do. It was a calling, right? It's a passion. So that's what I did. My now wife and I moved to Chicago, and I found PCOM here and dove right in. So I started in spring of 2013, at PCOM and graduated December 2016, just before the new year, and had my license by January 5th, 2017. I just submitted my scores to the license people and thought, I'll see this in months. And I guess it was the perfect time because I had a license within 5 days of getting my diploma. So lucky there. So that's a roundabout way of how I sort of got here to being an acupuncturist. And yeah, so I was given some pointers to talk about. Thank you, Alyssa. And I'm seeing more people joining. Welcome, everybody. So some of the challenges I faced out of graduation, at that time, we were allowed to take our board exams before we graduated. I hear that's changed. Is that right? You guys have to graduate before you can start taking your boards? Well, I was all about just getting out there, getting out of school and getting back into the real world. So I took all of my board exams minus the herbal exam, because you don't need the herb exam to get licensed. I took all of my board exams prior to graduation. So as soon as I graduated, I was ready to go. Problem was I didn't have any jobs lined up, right? That's the next step. But my big thing going into PCOM right away was networking. I was latching on to people that I thought were go-getters and saw that they are trying to drive this medicine, right? Because that's what I want. I'm so impressed with this system, and I know what the system is capable of. And it saddens me that there's just not enough education about it in America. Nobody knows what it is. They really don't understand it. I think we face a PR problem as an industry. We need to get our message out and educate the public, because we can help in every realm. And that's why I wanted to work in a hospital setting from the beginning as well. Because you have so many departments in a hospital, acupuncture belongs in each and every one of them. I wanted to be able to get my hands on all these different patients, right? And try to show Western medicine what this medicine can do, right? So let me back up. So out of PCOM, once I graduated, I was left with, all right, what do I do next? So I went to my network and started asking around, do you know of any openings here or there? So my very first job out of PCOM was just covering for other acupuncturists that needed to take a vacation, that needed a break. So my very first paid gig was just covering shifts. And while that was going on, I was in talks with Aligned Modern Health and looking at renting a space in the neighborhood where I lived at the time. So I was just trying to work as many options as I could. But again, I was really lucky in school. I had really great clinical experiences as an intern, and that continues for me today. I keep getting really interesting cases and have been successful treating them. But that comes to the education that you guys are getting right now at PCOM. Trust in what you're learning, even if you don't trust in your own skills at the moment because you don't have a lot of experience. Trust the medicine because it works. It's a very powerful medicine. So put your faith in that. They say fake it till you make it. That's damn right. Like, just because you're the expert in the room. If you're getting someone off the street, you know a hell of a lot more about this medicine than they do. So own that. Okay, that's one piece of advice I can give you. So floating around trying to find a job, in talks with Aligned. I'm applying to just about everything. I knew very early on that I didn't want to run my own clinic, right? It's a lot of overhead. I already had a hell of a lot of student loan debt. I wasn't going to take out business loans. So the idea was, because I've always been an employee. I was used to working in retail or some sort of customer service aspect. And I'm used to the Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type thing. So I don't mind being an employee somewhere. Some people, that's not for you. You know, some people want to have their own clinic and be their own boss and work 3-4 days a week. And that's fine. That's another way to go. It just wasn't for me. So what I did was I was looking for anything that would hire me as an employee, as a full-time staff, or as an acupuncturist, which is a rare thing right now. And I'm hoping it's going to change directions for you guys. But Aligned was really the only thing locally that was that business model. And I saw it for what it was. It's a great opportunity for a new graduate to get out and get their hands on patients, and a lot of patients. Like, you didn't have to go build it up. They had patients waiting to come out the door, and they would schedule that up for you. So my whole, again, I was on this trajectory of just get back into the world. So I wanted to get as much experience as possible, and Aligned allowed me to do that. Which then led me to where I am now at the VA hospital, because the VA hospital needs people that have experience seeing a high volume of patients, because you're seeing at the VA, well, right now, because of COVID, we're down to 50% capacity, but typically you're seeing 12, 13 patients a day. And right now I'm only able to see 6, which is why they're making us do the rest by telehealth, because there's a huge backlog. So talking about luck again, and networking, this all comes together for me anyways. But I always recommend making friends and trying not to be intimidated by your instructors, because they will one day be your colleagues, right? You can look up to them now for their knowledge base and their experience, but know at the end of this road, they've guided you to be at least at their level of knowledge and being able to diagnose and come up with a treatment strategy, right? So they are your colleagues at the end of this, and use those colleagues and whatever connections you have out in the community to work different angles to find a spot for yourself, right? Where was I? All right, let's get back how I got to the VA. So this is all just kind of luck, like I was saying. But when I was a student at PCOM, I was running the front desk at a local clinic in Lakeview. And one day, a woman called who grew up here in Chicago, but moved to California and was an acupuncture student in California at the time. She called and says, "Hey, my friend lives 3 blocks from your clinic. Do you have these herbs? He's too sick to leave the house. Can you please deliver these herbs?" So I was finishing up my shift. I'm like, sure, why not? She paid for it over the phone. I just walked it 2 blocks, knocked on the door, no one answered. I just left on the doorstep and walked away. No big deal. Turns out the guy found the herbs, got much better. So this girl, this young lady in California, just loved me ever since. So we started a friendship from 2 different states, but having that connection of being acupuncture students, right? Turns out she moves back to Illinois, and she and I were both applying to the same hospital position when I first graduated. It was a hospital out in the western suburbs that has an integrated wing, and I wanted to get in on that. And it was just at that time when Aligned gave me an offer finally. So I accepted that and put my support behind her to get that hospital job. And so she just loved me even more for that, for helping her get that role. Fast forward a few years later, she was ex-military, got hired at the VA as the very first acupuncturist to be hired in Chicago at the VA here. Her name is Dr. Caroline Wilkerson. So maybe you guys will meet her one day. Because my whole goal is to be sort of a trailblazer for the rest of you guys. I'm trying to expand this medicine as best I can. In fact, I'm working with your clinical supervisor. Is it Ken? Is that his name? Right. Quan, yes, sorry. I haven't met him. We've just been corresponding through email, but I'm trying to create an internship program at the VA right now for PCOM students. It's probably not going to happen until next year, but we're working on it. We're putting the foundations together right now to give you guys that experience. So yeah, I'm just trying to pay it all forward. I've been very lucky, like I said. When I was an intern at PCOM, I had a phantom limb patient that responded really well to scalp acupuncture, and it was my first time seeing that, and my instructors had never seen that either. They had theories. They're like, I don't know, try this. So I tried it, had some slight results, went home, did my own research, and you'll find this a lot when you're out in the clinical setting. Sometimes you'll see some stuff that comes in that you're not fully prepared for, but all you have to do is make them feel pretty good, give them that needle high on that first treatment, and then it gives you a chance to go home, do your research. They come back for that second visit, and then you can really focus on the issues that they're facing. So don't be intimidated by something you haven't seen. Treat the pattern. You guys know how to diagnose, or at least you'll learn to. If you're, I don't know how far everybody is in the program at the moment, but again, trust this medicine. Trust your ability to diagnose, because you're putting in the work. I know how difficult it is. And rely on each other. You know, I am still very close with my super nuclear family, nuclear family from PCOM, right? So I have a group chat going all the time with two different groups of PCOM students, where we're bouncing ideas, or we're just venting and trying to staying in touch and seeing each other. I mean, you know, you become a family when you go through something that's strenuous together. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into the VA. I had a friend, and she helped me get in, but she also needed the help, and I'm highly qualified for it because of my experiences and the training I got at PCOM. Because when she stepped into the VA hospital day one, she was booked solid for 3-4 months. And that's because of the opioid crisis. Doctors are more resistant to giving patients opioids, and they needed to find a new pain management system. And so once they started offering acupuncture at the VA, just flooded with patients. So when I worked at Aligned, I was up in Wrigleyville, which is a pretty well-off neighborhood, I guess, in the scheme of things. So I was doing a lot of fertility up there. So I've gotten really good at fertility. I had to do a lot of extra training in fertility through Aligned Modern Health, because that's a big population of the patients there. And so I went from seeing a lot of fairly well-off people that were just, you know, trying to get pregnant. Nothing against that, you know, but they're to this new demographic at the VA, where people are homeless, addicted to heroin, have traumatic brain injuries from combat, lots of hearing loss. Almost everybody I see has diabetes. It's a completely different demographic, but it's just as, it's challenging and it's rewarding, and you have to have a passion to treat that demographic. I have a military family. I have all 3 of my brothers were military. One's still in the military. He's actually in the Space Force now. And so during the interview, you had to convey that. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. If you're interested in working at the VA, which I'm working on creating more opportunities for everybody, you want to have to be there, because it is a challenging role. It's high volume, and I've seen more bed bugs than I ever have in my life there. And people are facing some real challenges. A lot of these people go homeless because they get addicted to drugs to deal with their pain. And yeah, a lot of them have had hard lives. So it's not always an easy thing to deal with. All right. So I'm making sure I'm hitting all the points here. So it's asking me to talk about my specialty, or what system of acupuncture I like to use. I wouldn't say I've specialized in anything specific at the moment. I consider myself a generalist, which I love about this system, is you can treat everything. You really can. And from my background as a biology major, I always was trying to translate the Chinese lingo into Western terms, or more scientific terms that were more understandable for me. And it makes it easier for me to talk to my patients and explain the medicine when I've translated that into Western terms. And now I am actually started a 1-year intensive certification program in neuropuncture. I don't know if you guys have heard of neuropuncture. Got a lot of heads shaking. It's just a deep dive into the neurophysiology, neuroanatomy, and neurochemistry of the body when you insert an acupuncture needle and how to manipulate that using electrical stimulation. So the e-stim training you guys get is a great foundation, but this is just a crazy intense deep dive into how to use that at a higher level. And the reason I'm doing that now is that it's going to open up some more opportunities for me at the VA. So because my colleague started the practice there at the VA and was so inundated, she had no opportunities to move outside of just running her clinic, right? But once I stepped in there, all of a sudden, because it's an outpatient procedure, acupuncture at the VA hospital. So people come to the hospital, come get their treatment, then they leave. And there's an entire bed tower of inpatients that have been admitted to the hospital for various reasons. And suddenly I've gotten the opportunity to go treat people in the bed tower. So I put together a little acupuncture cart and I'll roll my cart across the hospital and I'm able to treat. Most recently, this gentleman had a stroke and developed hiccups that he had for almost 2 weeks and wasn't able to eat, sleep. And they threw all these drugs at him and nothing was working. So they're like, well, let's give acupuncture a try. I gave him one treatment and it reduced by maybe 80%. Second treatment, completely gone with the hiccups. So then we were focusing on recovering from the stroke. And they already had set a discharge date. And so I had like 3 days to work with him to try to fix his deficits from his stroke. And we were making progress. So I referred him to the VA down in Indiana where he lives. And he followed up his treatment down there and it's coming along great. But it's this is why I want to be in a hospital setting for these types of opportunities. All right, I feel like I'm sort of all over the place with my story, but I know I've got extra time since Joni's not here. So yeah, I'll just keep going and you guys tell me if I'm getting too off track here. Oh yeah, my treatment style. I'm just straight up basic TCM. I mean, I took the Japanese courses as an elective, but that system didn't jive with me. So I don't do anything fancy. I didn't do any of the Dr. Tan or Dr. Tang methods. I don't know any of that stuff. I am just doing straight up TCM theory, diagnosis, and treatment protocols, and I am getting amazing results. But again, having that confidence in the medicine drives the confidence in your treatments. So find whatever jives with you and really hone that. You don't have to have all these different systems because sometimes it can get cluttered. But I mean, I guess it depends on the individual. So find what works for you or find what you find what you think is going to be your niche and maybe run with that and see where it takes you. Because that's the great thing about this medicine is it's both a science and an art, right? So you can interpret things differently and you can treat the same thing differently from different perspectives. So you'll get all that with 5E and all these other systems. Yeah. All right. What have I got now? Conditions I treat in practice. So I got into a couple, but the big thing at the hospital is that you can't just have the patients walk in. Everybody has to be referred to you. And the only thing that Western medical professionals know about acupuncture is that it's good for back pain. So every single patient I see is referred for back pain. But once they come in, we find all these other things, right? Even though like they all have diabetes or it's necks, backs, knees, and shoulders all day long is what I see. But then we can start getting into deeper things: sleep, nightmares, tinnitus, just all kinds of stuff, peripheral neuropathies, you name it. All right. Okay. Any resources for further education? So I've been doing a lot of my continuing education units through a website called Healthy Seminars. Any of you guys familiar with that? Yeah. Got one nod, but mostly people shaking their heads. So write that down. It's an online only portal for getting your CEUs out of the way. I'm about to come up on renewing my national certification to keep my diplomate current. So I've been using them a lot, especially with all the required ones where you have to do like it's the boring stuff, ethics, safety, you know. But I know there's other. I know what Illinois. They changed their name recently. ILSA. It used to be ILM. What's ILSA stand for? Illinois Society of Acupuncturists. Yeah. They're offering some different ones as well. But that's a fun thing too. Unless you're working somewhere like Aligned or the VA, actually the VA lets me kind of study what I want. They are supporting this neuropuncture thing. But Aligned was big on fertility, like I said, and so they would pay for those units, but they were also required. So if you're doing your own thing, you can study whatever you want. Depending on who you're working for, they might not force you, but require you to learn certain things. I wasn't a big fan of fertility while I was in school. But now that I've gotten really good at it, I'm a big fan of it because it's really rewarding to see people that have been struggling with infertility for a long time have a baby, and then I've done a lot of turning of breech babies using just moxa on the pinky toes. It actually works. I know it sounds insane, but I've seen it way too many times be successful to refute it. What can I tell you? I really love what I do every day. I think I hit most of the points. I don't know what else to tell you. We can do the question and answer section now if you'd like.
Yeah. So
or do you want me to expand on anything? Let me know.
I mean, no, I think we'll take some questions if anyone. I know Dane asked. So Dane is, I don't know, Dane, you can just talk. I feel like you have some good questions for him in relation to the VA.
I've actually talked to you about the VA before, Ryan. I sent you an email on Facebook before.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, are you able to use herbs with the VA, or do you primarily use Acu?
All right. So, because it's government agency, I guess, there's a lot of restrictions around how you practice. So that does get frustrating. We do practice herbal medicine, but we're not allowed to show any favoritism for any specific company. So you have to give them 3 options and let them choose. So I'll usually use one company. If I say, do you want herbs, pills, or a tincture? And then let them choose that way. Because it's really difficult to get them the right herbs by just giving them a name and go find it on the internet, because you want to be able to trust the potency and the source of those herbs. But yes, the short answer is yes, we are practicing herbal medicine there. And that reminds me, thank you for that question. We can't burn moxa in the hospital. And they've actually taken away our TDP lamps because people were burning themselves on them to try to sue the hospital. So this is, again, these are people that are addicted to drugs, so they're trying to find ways of getting extra money. So we had to take those away. So now I'm stuck with, I can't use moxa and I can't use TDP lamps. What the hell do I do? And so this is where I've gotten into red light therapy, actually. They're calling it photobiomodulation therapy. So studying that and getting trained in that, I've learned that is just the modern equivalent to moxibustion, except it doesn't emit heat. So I'll go a little in the science of that for you guys. Moxibustion emits far infrared light, which we perceive as heat. And it does penetrate into the body and gets absorbed on a cellular level to upregulate ATP production in every cell that it contacts, which is amazing. Low-level laser, same thing. It emits a near-infrared light signature that does not create heat, but it absorbs in the body the same way. But it's more efficient because when there's a heat component, the water molecules vibrate, and that sort of blocks the efficient penetration of that red light to be absorbed. So they found that the laser therapy, the red light therapy, does sort of the same thing. So we're using red lasers in the hospital setting since we can't use moxibustion. But I do miss that heat element, you know, get blood flowing and stuff.
Okay, Victoria asks if you can elaborate on any other restrictions aside from the moxa and heat sources.
Any other restrictions? Well, it's kind of a strange environment to work in anyways, because it's, you guys know the term red tape. That was invented because of the VA.
Mm.
The bureaucracy is crazy. So there's a lot of gatekeepers at the VA, people that are assigned to assist you, and sometimes they're not as motivated as you. And so you're relying on someone to do their job so you can do your job sometimes. So that gets a little frustrating. But aside from that, it's kind of nice. It's banker's hours. You know, I work Monday through Friday. I've never worked a job in my life where I didn't work weekends. And it lines up with my wife's schedule, which is nice. So we have more time together. So it's a good fit for me in that regard. I work my shift is 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the VA's, I mean, it's a government job. They have nice benefits. I don't know what else I can tell you about that. I can't say too much about the VA because as an employee, I can be seen as a representative, and I've not been trained to speak publicly about the VA. So there's a lot of things I might fumble and say negatively, and could cost me, you know, my job. So I'm not going to get too much into it. But I will say I do love working there, and at times it can be a little frustrating, especially right now during COVID. There's a lot more restrictions. And we're in old hospital rooms where there used to be 2 hospital beds. So instead of separate rooms, you've got 2 beds per room, which is why I'm only allowed to see 1 patient at an hour right now. Is you can't have more than 1 person in the room at a time. So that's a little restrictive as well. So that's just pushing our backlog back even farther. Yeah, I think that's about it for now. Yeah.
Okay, Maddie asks, what are the requirements and benefits of having your diplomat that you've found?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I will say that's something I recognized right away from PCOM, was that the herbal aspect. That's going to separate us from people that don't practice herbal medicine. Because I've seen patients that weren't responding to acupuncture, and that's because we need the right resources in the body to manipulate, right? And if they don't have those, you have to supplement those, and that's going to be our herbal medicine, right? So I was treating this patient recently that was not responding to the acupuncture, but as soon as I put her on herbs, her issue resolved. So that's a big part of it. The herbs are huge. Like, herbs were the hardest part for me going through school. I actually failed an herb midterm and had to ace the final to pass the course because my brain just shut down. I went from a Marie France point final exam straight into an herbal midterm exam, and I couldn't think of a single herb. And Elaine Bozar, bless her heart, patted me on the head, saying, well, you got to get it 100% on the final if you want to pass this class. So she helped me along, and now we're really good friends and colleagues as well. Yeah.
Okay, Maddie also had a second question, and I know that we've, like a lot of us have been thinking about this lately too. Just, I mean, you're learning all of this Chinese system and then translating that into Western terms is kind of like a little obstacle that we're kind of thinking about. And so she wants to know if you have any resources to kind of get ourselves prepared to be able to talk to physicians in their terms and their lingo.
Well, I don't know about resources. This is stuff that I've had to just sort of come up with on my own along the way. That made sense to me. Excuse me. But now doing my neuropuncture training, I'm getting all the lingo I'll ever want. It's very specific about which neuropeptides are released from which structures in the nervous system from the brain stem or the center of the brain at the junctions at the spinal cord, or what's been happening in the skin when you put a needle in. So right now I'm getting a lot of that, but so I'll just tell you how I sort of explain acupuncture to my patients. It's pretty straightforward and as simplified as possible so that my regular patients can understand it. This is a manipulation of the nervous system. That's all it is, right? When you put a needle into the body, your brain registers damage happening to those tissues when you pierce the skin and the muscle. So it's going to mobilize blood and tissue repair factors to the area. And that's sort of how we use the peripheral nervous system to affect the central nervous system. So that's how we can affect the entire body. It is a nervous system therapy, which is why I was drawn to neuropuncture. They just get more into that on a technical level, on a scientific level, with research and seeing like what parts of the brain light up during functional MRIs when you put needles into the body. And I mean, it doesn't detract at all from the beauty that is the DACM system to know what's happening on a medical level, on a Western science medical level in the body. I saw an eye roll a little bit. So that was, again, coming from biology background, when I first started PCOM, my first day in class was like the foundations class or fundamentals, I forget which, but I was really afraid that I wasn't going to believe what they were going to tell me about how and why this works. But once you learn the foundations and the construct under which this medicine was built, it's just as scientific as modern scientific method. It's just a different language and a different way of talking about the body, but it's all based on repeatable methods and observation and trial and error, right? Just collected over thousands of years, which is interesting because it's something we just talked about in my neuropuncture class the other night was GB37. You guys familiar with GB37? It's a great point for any eye issues, right? Well, using functional MRI, that lights up the visual cortex when you needle GB37. And they knew this way back thousands of years ago just from observing that, hey, when I manipulate this point, their vision gets better or my vision gets better, you know? So I was always afraid of people not giving us our due credit by speaking about it in Chinese terms because it's just too ethereal for Westerners to understand, which is why I've gotten better at translating it into this lingo that they would, right? And did Christy have her hand raised? Am I seeing that?
Oh, yes, thank you. So I have a friend who goes to the VA actually in Chicago. He is part of recovery and he suffers from schizophrenia. I guess he's told me quite a bit that this blending program that you guys are doing there has really helped him in terms of his way of thinking and how he take one thing at a day at a time. But do you know what goes on in some of the, like, I understand the restrictions that you have on the Moxa and all that, but in terms of the lifestyle and what you guys are really doing in like integrated therapies like that, like what happens in the mental health arena with the post-traumatic stress or schizophrenia, and you know,
Are you asking? Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't know if I'm making sense. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Are you asking like what is the process at the hospital if they're seeing a psychiatrist, psychologist, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he says that he does some group rooms, you know, with people, and what he sees is he sees a lot of people that are just, they're not broken, right? But they have this broke look to themselves. Like they really, you know, they feel like they're at the end and that they're not, their relationships with people, I think, is really on the fritz. And so I just didn't know if that's something that you could talk about too, is like what's happening on the back end in terms of helping all aspects of their lifestyles.
For VA, for veterans specifically?
Yeah.
Well, I know I have several of those patients that they have their group therapy sessions, which is they all find very helpful. A lot of these guys have been through some traumatic stuff, especially people that have seen combat. I see a lot of people that have seen combat that just are haunted by it. And the only thing that helps them is to talk to other people that have experienced it, because you can't just talk to anybody about it, right? No one would really understand it unless they've been through it. So they do have those group sessions available through the VA, and beyond that, I'm not really sure what else. There's a lot of different programs. So acupuncture falls under 2 programs at Jesse Brown VA Medical Center, which is the location I'm at. One is the physical medicine and rehab department, which they didn't have space for this new therapy. So we're way up on like 4 floors away from where my department actually is. So everyone always gets lost trying to find me. And then we're also under this umbrella program called Whole Health that also sponsors like Qigong and what is it called? They're not TCM therapies, but there are these other, what Western medicine would consider outliers, but Whole Health runs all that too. So there's a lot of different programs for like meditative breathing and things like that are available to the veterans that we can forward onto or refer to.
Do you know then too, have you seen and experienced schizophrenia then in patients that you've had to treat?
Not so far, not at the VA. I've seen that when I was out at Alumni Modern Health. I saw a couple schizophrenic patients, but not so much at the VA as of yet. And again, I think it's just because of the lack of knowledge about what acupuncture is capable of.
Oh, go ahead.
Not just in the general public, but among Western medical professionals.
Yeah. So do you know with working with this, sorry, I don't know why I'm so interested in the schizophrenic today, but
it's fascinating stuff. I love psych stuff.
Yeah. Have you seen like what treatments kind of do well, or like what the approach is to it? Is it, I mean, I'm sure there's not really protocols like a NADA or anything, but because everyone's pattern is so different, but what
right.
have you seen? Yeah.
No, when I was treating it, I didn't have any advanced training in any sort of psych stuff. I have books on TCM and psych, and was just treating the pattern, and he was doing better. I mean, it was very phlegmy, so it was just a lot of clearing phlegm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
And then one last question. I know Kat asked if you've seen have you had any patients with COVID or post-COVID even, and how does that look like?
Hi, Kat. Yeah, well, post-COVID, like they have a whole wing dedicated to active COVID patients. And a lot of the ones that I've seen were near death and were really recovering because their lung tissue had been damaged pretty severely. And the gentleman I most recently treated was on oxygen when he came to see me. And within 3 weeks, which is 3 weekly treatments, he got off oxygen. His oxygen saturation levels went from like a 93 to back up to a 98, 99. And I mean, that's just, and that's what is really frustrating for me is I walk around the hospital and I see all these different departments. There's actually a functional, like a pulmonary function department, and like acupuncture needs to be in there. Acupuncture needs to be over here in whatever, ER triage, you know. We need somebody over in the bed tower seeing in like it just, I'm so excited to be there to be able to try to expand the medicine there, but we need bodies, we need help. We're trying to get one, it's hard to get approval. It took me 18 months to get hired there from my initial interview. Again, because of the red tape I was talking about. There's a lot of bureaucracy, but there's talk in the next 3 years of building a clinic across the street from the hospital for just my department, so we can have a whole wing of acupuncturists. Yeah. So you guys get your studying and get your experience in, revisit me in like 3 years. Or if you're an intern, by sometime next year, hopefully we'll have an internship program at the VA as well. Yeah.
Brian, I had a question. You had said something about, this is Ermina.
Hello.
That said, trust your medicine, trust your colleagues. And what was the third thing that you said?
Oh, trust your ability to diagnose, right? PCOM does a great job at drilling your pattern diagnoses, right? I've met and talked with acupuncturists that didn't go to PCOM, that they just don't get the same level of training that we do. And that's what I recognized about PCOM initially, and why I decided to go there, was the quality of the education that you get there is very high. I had a patient at Alumni who actually attended PCOM. She never went into practice. Her husband did very well, and they moved to Europe. And she said when she was in Europe, that she was in England, London, I think. She said that they knew about PCOM over in London. She said any student, new graduate, could walk over to Europe and instruct without any like clinical experience. Our education is that good at PCOM. So have confidence in that, have confidence in the system, right? So just treat the pattern, you know how to diagnose, and you can do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Do they allow bloodletting in the VA?
I don't think so. I'm not into bloodletting, so I don't know, but possibly. I mean, so what's really cool is my boss, who's the head of the physical medicine and rehabilitation department, is a big proponent of acupuncture. So he lets us pretty much do whatever we want. So I guess if that's something you want to bring to it, you would just have to run it by him, and he's usually pretty cool with most things. I have not been denied a single thing there. When I ask for anything, they get it for me, which has been nice. So that's the other thing. A hospital setting usually has money, right? And they have budgets, and they have different grants coming through for research and whatnot. And I was actually approached to do some research by a researcher who's in the room next to me, but I just don't have time right now. But there's a lot of opportunities in a hospital setting, like I said.
All right, Ryan. I know that Christy wanted to know if you're okay with us sharing your contact information for future.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the other thing. Like, you guys are acupuncturists. You're my people, and you're part of the PCOM family. So I'm here for you. Like, if you guys need anything, just shoot me an email. I'm really quick about getting back to people for the most part. But yeah, if you need anything, if I can help you, I will.
Okay. I'll send that out to the students over here today.
Wait, let me, I'll type out my email because I think I have my photography email. It's basically the same thing, but I threw ACU on the end. So don't forget my middle initial. Everyone always misses that part. So it's Ryan A. Ruiz ACU @gmail.com. Or if you want to be fancy with it, I've got ryan.reese1@va.gov now, but it's better if you just send it to my personal account, because I don't always have access to my work account on the weekends and stuff.
All right. Well, on behalf of all of us here, thank you for being here and sharing your time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. I'm Addie.
Yeah, you can't see me clapping, but yes. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for emceeing for us today. I see all the student council members here, and we are just so elated that you were able to come in and share your time with us.
Well, thank you. I was part of the student council as well when I was there. I wanted to be as involved as I could be to make those connections, right? So networking is very important. You'll find that when you start getting out of school, that somebody knows somebody who knows somebody that can help you, right? So keep this unit, this family going, and I'm part of your family too. Okay. I got to get back to work. All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
bye.
Ryan, thank you so much.